Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Bogdan Cudzilo at TriStar. I apologize for the late start this morning. So I think an email is going to be sent out to those who were trying to get onto the webinar and haven't been able to. I'll start the webinar content in about a couple of minutes here. Let everyone try to sign in. This webinar will be recorded, so it will be available for playback purposes in a day or two. What we're going to be talking about today is PTC Windchill access for the entire enterprise. So one mechanism of getting the rich data out of Windchill is through the Windchill browser. So for those people who are not in Windchill through the CAD software or through document management software, we can get into Windchill just simply using a web browser. So other departments, in purchasing, maybe quality, sales, and service within the companies can actually get to that content that they've been given access to in Windchill through a web browser. And traditionally, that's been an approach that was available for Windchill access. And more recently, you may have heard of a product from PTC called ThingWorx has arrived on the scene, and PTC has used that technology to create easy to use apps for accessing Windchill. So for those administrators who don't want to modify the Windchill layout for the website, for the web browsers, the users could now use Navigate, which are built-in apps in Windchill that allow the enterprise users to access data within Windchill even simpler, in a more simpler manner than just using the standard web browsers in the past. So what I'll do is I'll go through this webinar and kind of discuss what Navigate is, how it's used, and some of the benefits that companies realize by having their users use this type of access mechanism into Windchill. So we'll go over just Navigate, and then we'll have time for some questions and answers. I'll try to keep this webinar on time. This is a very quick topic. It's very visual, so I'll get into the software itself, and I'll show its functionality. So, what is this Navigate software? Why has it been developed? Where was there a need from companies? So companies usually, the product development data in Windchill created by the engineering team includes things like parts, assemblies, and drawings, and maybe documents. And enabling a true self-serve environment for the rest of the company is one of the goals of Windchill. So if there is a drawing, a print that someone needs to take a look at and download, we can have Windchill store those files so people don't go to the engineering department and have them email drawings or content out of their workflow. Users can just go into Windchill and download that content directly. So some users might, in the company might want to get drawings. They might want to go in, especially on the manufacturing or shop floor, someone's going to want to go in and maybe look at a 3D model, maybe take some measurements, get more details than what they might have on the 2D drawing in front of them. Purchasing and quoting departments might need access to some neutral files of the CAD design, maybe some shrink wraps, maybe some IGES or step files that they would then use to send to their suppliers to get a quote, or just use for sharing that information internally, taking a look at what the file looks like, maybe even downloading that model because it's used in other programs. Maybe they need it for simulation. Maybe they need it for some machining software, especially the 2D DXF files for sheet metal machines that punch or laser cut the part from that drawing. So a lot of people need the information that's being designed in engineering, and they need that information quickly to be able to react to changes, to be able to kind of react to what needs to happen to make sure that the time to release, time in manufacturing is optimized. Other users might want to go into the system and take a look at what's the latest. What is the latest rev of a part or drawing? So this type of mechanism, in the past with Windchill, from what we heard from customers, is that those people who are using Windchill frequently, they'll just use the web browser to go into the system. But those that are not using Windchill frequently, they typically will say that the interfaces are too complex. I just need simply to go in and get a drawing. Maybe it's a PDF. I don't want to go through 10 clicks and 10 pages to get to that. I really don't remember. I don't want training on this. A lot of companies don't want to train users in yet another software. So they just want them to be able to take that software and have it be very intuitive, so they can start using it right away. And typically in the companies with Windchill, we could tailor the user interface. We could strip out some of the the menu options just through the web browser. But again, that's a configuration to the install that some administrators may not want to maintain within the company. So with that in mind, PTC has created Navigate. Navigate is based on the ThingWorx platform, which means that it's able to connect to Windchill. It's also able to connect to other systems to pull in data that the users might need. Windchill Navigate is typically installed either on the Windchill server or on a separate server if you have a lot of users. It doesn't require Windchill updates, so Navigate can be used all the way back to Windchill 10.1. So if you're on previous versions of Windchill, you could quite easily install those and get the data out of Windchill that you might need. Also, the functionality that the users might need is available out of the box with these Navigate apps, and I'll go through what those are. The Navigate applications also scale to mobile devices. So if someone is looking at something in Windchill from their tablet or phone, the Navigate app will take up very little real estate on the screen, so the users will be able to navigate the system quite quickly without going through a full web browser page. In the upcoming releases of Navigate this summer, around the July timeframe, PTC is also developing mobile-specific apps for Navigate. So, you'll be able to go into the Apple or the Android store and download the app and be able to access it through, access your Windchill server through that app that's, going to be optimized for that specific device. So it's a lot more user-friendly approach by making sure that the app fits to whatever device the user is using. Now, in terms of Navigate, Navigate itself currently is used for viewing purposes. So in the future, the plans are to release apps that would contribute or allow users to upload something into Windchill or participate in some workflow tasks. But today, Navigate is used only to view information. And there's several apps that the administrators can expose to different user roles to view things like only drawings, maybe part structures or parts lists of an assembly. And this could work both on just if you're just using Windchill for CAD management, or if you're also using Windchill for managing Windchill parts or WT parts. Some of these apps could also be exposed for users just to go in and use the Creo View application or the viewer to measure and mark up in 3D. And Navigate is expandable, so you can add additional apps that that users can create. So the framework of Navigate is for most companies, it's going to be installed on the same server as the application server in Windchill. And depending on the number of users, you can also install it on a dedicated server. If you have hundreds or thousands of users needing to go into Windchill through Navigate. So before I get any further, let me go into the demonstration of Navigate. So what I'll do here is I'll open up a Windchill page. The users in Navigate will be users in Windchill. So Navigate itself has a licensing model that will just duplicate the number of users that I have in Windchill versus the users that, the view users that I have in Navigate. So I'm going to log in as administrator here in my account. Navigate can use different roles to log into the system. If I spell it right. So if I log in as administrator, I might have access to configure some of these. If I log in as a user, I might see certain options, and certain options may not be available to me. So for example, here when I log into Navigate, just on the PLM side, I have these different apps, which are represented by these boxes, that allow me to get into the system to look at some information. And because I'm an administrator, I can edit these options for what users are able to see. So if I want to edit which of these options are available for my different user roles, I can do that here in Navigate. So for example, for someone in manufacturing or in the manufacturing role, I might want to only expose the drawing and the markup apps. So these are easily just clicked on here by the administrator. And I can specify, do those users in Windchill search for just CAD documents, or can they search for Windchill parts, or both? What are they going to be able to search on? Are they going to be able to search just on the part number, or the name? Or can they use a saved filter? So if you, for example, create some saved searches in Windchill, you can also put in those saved searches available for the users. So that means, as an administrator or as a user in engineering, I can just, for example, limit my search and Navigate to a specific product, and that could be a saved search. Or I can limit it to only the latest revisions or previous revisions if I want someone to see those. So there's a lot of tweaking available here just on the admin side for configuring these apps. If I go into one of these apps, for example, the View Drawing app, and I click on that, this is going to bring me essentially to like a Google search page where if I know the part number or the name of that drawing, I can just search for it here. So I'm going to, this user I have in Navigate is not connected to Windchill on my demo system, so I'm going to connect into Windchill using my Windchill password which you would be the same in the typical case. But all this information is coming from Windchill. So right now, these are my most recently searched for items. So if I search, for example, for a drawing with the word gear or something like this, this is going to come up with what drawings. And I also have this filter set to parts for this view drawing app. But if I want to limit it to only drawings, only these drawings would come up. So here I have a Rev A release drawing, and then there's a later version, Rev B, that's still in work. So with my administrator role, I could see these. Maybe manufacturing, if they went in here, they would only see the release state. They would not see the in-work state. So the Rev A would be the latest one that would come up for them, and then they can go into this drawing. So for example, if I want to go to the Rev A drawing, I can just click on that, and that's going to give me the details of that drawing. And it's also going to allow me to open up this drawing inside of my my browser. Now, this drawing itself has a PDF file generated. So this is the additional file publishing mechanism in Windchill that generates these PDF files off of these drawings when I check them in. And when I click on it, the user quickly just opens up that PDF. Right? So here's my my drawing that I'm looking at. So now, the user can, with just 2-3 clicks, the users can just file print or, save this drawing that they need out of the system. Right? So these are the design files that are related to this part. So here I see just a PDF. Now I could enable Windchill to create things like, DXF files for 2D, maybe some, some other plot files. And those would be available as attachments here on this page. So I could download one by one, or I could download all of these. And some of these other apps are also available here on the detailed page of this drawing. So for example, the View and Measure app just simply opens up Creo View out of Windchill and shows me that file that I'm looking at in Navigate using Creo View, the Windchill viewer. And this opens up in a few seconds here. Now, if I go back into my main page and now search for a part or an assembly, I can use some of these other apps here. So for example, if I want to look at a parts list of an assembly, I can use the parts list app. And this would allow me to go in and search for an assembly. I'm just going to again use this gearbox assembly. This app here would allow me to take a look at the parts that make up this assembly. So if I want to see quantities of certain parts, I can. The revs, the latest revs of each part that is used in this assembly, I can, and so on. So these are the predefined columns that I have in Navigate that show me that information. If some of these parts have drawings related to them, I can download that drawing file directly by a link here in the column. So this is the only part that I've created a drawing for. So there's a link that if I click on it, that'll take me again to that PDF of that round cover plate part. So if I have 100 or 1,000 of these parts, which they have 1,000 drawings, for example, the Navigate can handle that use case. TriStar has applications that could, for example, package up all of these drawings at once and download it into a package really quickly with just one click. So this is just the application that's available out of the box. You can extend this, and TriStar can help you to kind of put that into your environment as well. With this app, this could be tailored as well. So Navigate comes with a application developer kit, so I could tweak how many columns I'm showing here, what these columns are. I might want to show maybe also my own columns like description or material or some surface finish. Navigate itself can also link to other systems, so I can also pull in things like ERP data if I have an ERP connection between Windchill and that ERP system, and show those items inside of Navigate for the users. So for example, if I take a look at an example of that, here's an example of a column added to Navigate that show, for example, the stock information coming from my ERP system. So this assembly here is in Windchill. It may be released. Some parts may not be. I've also colored some of these columns to show green when it's released and red when it's still in work. But this stock column here in real time pulls, or based on the synchronization schedule, pulls data from ERP. So things like cost, stock numbers for inventory, items on order, those could also be kind of consolidated into Navigate. So the users don't have to go into multiple systems. They can just use one application to get that data that they need quickly. There's also another app that allows me to look at the BOM structure of this assembly that I'm looking at. And the Creo View application is embedded inside of this Navigate page, so the users can kind of click on parts within the graphics area to see what those are. They can also click on some of these parts and explore that structure directly here in the part structure page. Now this is a one-level structure. If I had multiple sub-assemblies, I could just simply expand out the levels and see what parts make up that that assembly. So most of these parts are released based on my state, and I can see that information directly here in Navigate. Right? So this is just a simple page that the users can go into and find that information. And if I'm using this web browser, I can kind of scale it up to a point on a mobile device, and it kind of fits into my mobile experience. And again, PTC has plans to also come out with mobile versions of these Navigate apps. So here's an example concept. This may not be how it looks, but this would be optimized for a like a mobile device. TriStar also has the ability to generate and link barcode information to your barcode system or ERP system, but that can also be shown kind of consolidated on the Navigate page directly from Windchill and ERP systems. Also, I wanted to mention in Windchill 11 M20, the ThingWorx application can also be embedded as a tab into Windchill itself. So on the Windchill details page or a part page, I can also add some of those Navigate components, which are based on ThingWorx, into the Windchill page itself for users. Right? So this could be running searches into Windchill to extract out information. Maybe I'm interested in number of change notices, CAPAs, complaints, non-conformances that are related to this product, for example. So PTC is adding more of this ThingWorx capability into Windchill to make sure it's it's connected with these applications, such as Windchill, ERP systems, and other systems. We had customers who are also pulling in sales quote numbers from their CRM systems and consolidating that into a dashboard within Navigate, within some of the TriStar apps, and now in Windchill 11 M20 you can also do this within the Windchill page itself. So that essentially is PTC Navigate today. I also wanted to mention there is a time-limited offer by PTC that TriStar is participating in. So if you do need to bring in additional people into Windchill, there is a buy 3 get get 2 pay for 2 rather, buy 3 pay for 2 deal. Otherwise the deal wouldn't be that good. That ends at the end of June. So if you want to get additional people into your company, the Navigate licensing is fairly cost beneficial compared to a Windchill full license. So these users would be able to use Navigate to get that out of the system that they would need. Okay, so that's going to end my webinar for today. I'm going to see if there's any questions right now and get to those. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the question and answer or the comment section at the bottom of your GoToWebinar window. Okay, so I see some questions around, is there a licensing component for Navigate? So yes, so Navigate does include a licensing component. So Navigate is both a software that gets installed on the server as well as a licensing for users to be able to use that software. Once you buy one license, you have access to the software. But the license is a view and print license. There's also Navigate licenses in the future that allow you to kind of simulate the Windchill light and heavy type of licenses called Contribute and Author. But today, the Windchill Navigate view application is just a view-based license. Another question around, the plans PTC has of Navigate is to also bring in functionality to contribute information and to author information in Windchill. The first release of Contribute right now that's slated for release is late this summer of this year. The author app is slated for next year, but that's still in the works. But this year, in the summer time frame, PTC has plans, from what we heard, to release the Contribute app version of Navigate. Another question around, are any other flags like pending change, little triangle icons shown in the Navigate page? So when I'm looking at, for example, the parts list or the BOM page, can I see whether things are undergoing change, if someone has them checked out or so? So by default, the out of the box, no, those are not shown. But you can tailor this app with the application developer kit to show those items from Windchill. If it exists in Windchill, you can show it in Navigate in the table or somewhere flagging an attribute on the page itself. Another question, we looked at looking at PDFs. Can Navigate be configured to only display watermarked Creo view files? It can, yes. So one of the representations for Creo view is a PVZ file, which could include watermarks. So if you set up Windchill to expose that information, those could be shown in Navigate. But that would be both a Windchill configuration and a Navigate configuration to see that information. Another question around the access control rules or the access from Windchill. So yes, Navigate will use whatever has been defined in Windchill. So it uses the user that's in Windchill, and that user access is controlled inside Windchill. Navigate does not control any rules that Windchill does not enforce. Navigate can filter on top of the rules in Windchill. So if I have access to see unreleased content in Windchill as a user, in Navigate, my administrator can set me up to put an additional filter that shows only released states, and I may not be able to see the unreleased states unless I go into Windchill itself through the standard web browser. Another question around that product tracker. You know, can you show real-time data? So, you know, this is one example of you know, kind of users accessing information in Windchill. This is just like any Windchill page. If you want to show real-time data, you got to refresh this page. So yes, if you refresh the page, it'll show real-time data. If you want it to update all the time, then you got to put in some customization that refreshes your page. Navigate will not refresh pages automatically. So just like any web browser, you got to refresh it using, you know, your browser refresh. If you're interested in the pricing, head over to TriStar's website. We should have this available on our website, and if you click on the link on the offer, that'll you know, that'll list the offer. And if you need more information, you can contact your TriStar representative, and they'll be able to provide you with pricing. Another question around, does ThingWorx require WT parts implemented? No, it does not. So if you only are managing CAD files, you can use Navigate to look at your drawings, your 3D models just on the CAD side. So no, you don't need WT parts. So Navigate licensing is a subscription-based license based on the user, the named user. Now, if you have a lot of users that change frequently and don't use the system, there's also PTC also has an active daily user license model, so it's not based on you know, like a flex license or a named user license, but how often does that user access the system? So they'll consume a license for 24 hours, and then that license will get released back to the pool for the other user to consume. So those, if you have, let's say, 500 users, but only 20 go in at a time, you're not going to be paying for 500 users. You're going to be paying for less. So it just depends on how often, how can you estimate how often to use it, and you only pay for that. Okay, so we're kind of running on time here, so I want to thank you for attending this webinar. The replay will be available shortly. And if you have any more questions on Navigate or would like to see you know, other demos and how it could fit into your company, let us know. You can contact TriStar or your sales representative, and we'll be happy to arrange demos and discuss, you know, how this could apply into your environment. So thanks everyone for your time, and have a great day.